Hi everyone, I'm Haley and I'm going to be introducing Becoming to you. So, Becoming is a memoir by Michelle Obama and it was released in 2018. It was a number one New York Times bestseller with over 10 million copies sold. It actually sold 725,000 copies in the first day and 1.4 million copies within the first week. This talks a lot about her roots growing up in the south side of Chicago, finding her voice, her education, becoming a mother, and her time in the White House as First Lady. This book is 24 chapters long and it's divided into three sections. First section is Becoming Me, and this talks a lot about her time growing up in the South Side, her education at Princeton University and Harvard Law School, and her early career in a law firm. Becoming Us talks about her relationship with Barack and their marriage, her becoming a mother, and the beginning of Barack's political career in the Illinois State Senate. This section ends on election night in 2008 when Barack Obama was elected the President of the United States. The third section, Becoming More, talks a lot about their time in the White House and her being the first African American First Lady.
Hi, my name is Casey Pitt, and I'm going to be talking about how Becoming by Michelle Obama is intentional. Controlling images, as we learned in class, are misguided messages that perpetuate incorrect images and portrayals. Two controlling images that are shattered by Mrs. Obama include the mammy and the welfare queen. Like we read in Unit 3, the mammy image can be traced back for many years and is an image that portrays the thought that Black women are submissive to their own oppression and that they are complacent with being lazy and stupid women who cannot hold down meaningful jobs or employment. Well, Michelle not only tested into the first magnet school of Chicago, but went on to earn her bachelor's in sociology from Princeton and a degree from Harvard Law. She landed a job at a prestigious Chicago law firm named Sidley Austin after graduation, and from there acquired a long list of accomplishments in not only law, but also in her civil work with nonprofits, startups, and in government offices. The second image would be the welfare queen. This controlling image came around the 1970s when Ronald Reagan coined the term when describing a Black woman who he considered to be playing the welfare system. This spiraled into the controlling image that all Black women are lazy, unwed, negligent mothers, and that they rely on the government to support them. This could not be further from the truth for Michelle. She is currently happily married to former President Barack Obama, and they've been married for about 28 years. She's a loving mother of two girls named Sasha and Malia, and Michelle worked a full-time workload on a part-time work schedule, all while raising her daughters. She practically raised her daughters by herself, to no fault to Barack but his crazy politician schedule, which took him away from the home for the majority of the week for many years. While they both understood that it was necessary for Barack, it truly was very hard for Michelle, but it did not affect the love for her family. It is noted in an article from the White House that when she is asked to describe herself, she says that she is first and foremost the mother of Sasha and Malia. In her book, she speaks about a time where she went to a job interview. She had to bring her daughter with her. She brought her daughter and demanded flexible work hours because she knew that is what she needed as a mother. Additionally, Michelle has never relied on anyone in her life for a handout. She is a self-determined woman who has worked her entire life for what she wants and never expects anything from everyone, not even her parents, and especially not the government. Michelle is an excellent role model for Black women all around the world.
Hi everyone, my name is Nara and I'm going to be discussing how Becoming is a work of intersectionality. So Kimberly Crenshaw, who was a legal scholar and practicing lawyer, coined the term intersectionality. So to do this, she used two bodies of literature. The first one is critical race theory and the second one is Black feminism. Relating it back to the context of our book, so Michelle Obama has a range of experiences as a woman and a Black person. So by this, I mean, she has a multifaceted identity. She's not just a woman, she's not just Black, she is both a woman and Black, so she's a Black woman. So she faces both gendered oppression and racial oppression. So for the first example pulled from our book, she wrote that in the 1970s, there was a lot of economic and racial sorting in the South Shore neighborhood where she lived and the Bryn Mawr School, which was her middle school. A newspaper even wrote that they thought her middle school was a rundown slum led by a ghetto mentality just because it was a poor school and mostly Black students. So to overcome this barrier, she had to join a program at her school that allowed her to learn at a faster pace so she could learn more material. Next, some self-doubt in high school. So because of a lot of the racial stereotypes that were pushed onto her and her Black peers, she literally began to wonder. In her book, she wrote that she wondered if Black students were just as smart as white students. So she had a lot of self-doubt. And to overcome this, she applied to Princeton. And her college counselor actually told her that she wasn't Princeton material. So she applied to Princeton and got in. So Michelle Obama entered the political scene in 2008 when her husband, Barack Obama, began his presidential campaign. I read in a journal article titled At Last, Michelle Obama, Beyonce, Race and History by Farah Jasmine Griffin. She wrote that while Michelle Obama's cultural Blackness kind of legitimated Barack Obama's racial authenticity for African Americans, for a lot of white, or for some white people, it was actually just a constant reminder of his Black race. It was just a reminder that they had a Black man running for president. So because of this, his opponents tried to paint her as an angry, unpatriotic Black woman. This basically means that a stereotype was pushed onto her that she was an angry Black woman whenever she was kind of just really trying to voice her opinions, her experiences, and live in her truth. People kind of just tried to invalidate it because she was an angry Black woman who was kind of like emotionally unstable. She actually gave a speech in 2008 where she said that for the first time in her adult life, she was proud of her country. And Cindy McCain, who was John McCain's wife, and John McCain was Barack Obama's presidential component in the presidential race, she kind of mocked Michelle Obama in a speech and said that she thought she was always proud of her country. And the problem with this is that the mainstream media failed to back Michelle Obama up, and she was kind of painted a very negative picture for Michelle Obama. And the problem with this is because of Michelle Obama's identity as a Black woman, it made sense for her to not have felt proud of her country before this. Cindy McCain is very privileged in the fact that she's a white woman. So the two things are very different. This kind of also just shows Michelle Obama's experiences and intersectionality. Then she became the first African-American First Lady of the United States of America. So she wrote in the book that there was a time where she was sitting in the House of Representatives, and from where she was sitting in an ocean of whiteness and maleness. So there was only 7 other people in the room who weren't Black, and none of them were African-American, and only one of them was a woman. In that space, again, she saw no one who looked like her. She was the only Black woman. Michelle also knew that because she was the first African-American First Lady, there was a lot expected of her. And to overcome this, she kind of used this as fuel to create great initiatives for healthy living for children and families. So that is Michelle Obama's intersectionality, how it is a work of intersectionality. And yeah, moving on.
So Michelle Obama explains the concept of the personal is political in her memoir by addressing race and gender never before voiced by a First Lady. Her Let Girls Learn initiative focused on helping adolescent girls around the world obtain better access to education. After 276 Nigerian schoolgirls were kidnapped by an extremist group, it encouraged her to take over Barack's weekly address to the nation, and she chose to speak emotionally about how we need to work harder at protecting and encouraging girls worldwide. She raised a ton of money to fund the program and was actually seen on James Corden's Carpool Karaoke to help raise awareness to the situation in a lighthearted way. This shows the personal is political because she's speaking out about something that needed to change and was raising awareness for a cause that she felt strongly about. In her Let's Move campaign, it was a campaign to end the childhood obesity epidemic within a whole generation. This is a really, really hard topic to talk about with not only children, but with parents and with school districts. And in doing so, it made a lot of changes for the better, even if it was uncomfortable at first. And then her speaking at Hillary Clinton's campaign rally for the 2016 election was something really huge, because after hearing a video of Trump surfacing around him using really vulgar language in regards to women that just came out before the election, she just could not even believe what she was hearing. Every woman recognized it, and she felt compelled to address Trump's words directly to counter his voice with her own. In her speech at Hillary Clinton's campaign rally in New Hampshire, she said, "This is not normal. This is not politics as usual. This is disgraceful, and it is intolerable." She then addresses this in her memoir, and on page 408, she says, "I articulated my rage and my fear, along with my faith, that with this election, Americans understood the true nature of what they were choosing between. I put my whole heart into giving that speech." This shows her self representation because she is able to stand in front of a crowd as the first African American First Lady at a campaign rally and speak for not only herself, but on behalf of all women in America, no matter what their race, their religion, or their gender identity is.
Hi, I'm Grace Arbez, and I'm going to be explaining how feminism was relevant in Michelle Obama's memoir and her actions to social justice. So, a reoccurring struggle in Michelle Obama's memoir was her struggle growing up with goals and intentions that didn't align with those of the other Black women that she grew up around. Her peers would often make fun of her by saying she talked white or for her success and drive that she displayed in school, which she defended in her memoir by saying that her family was more strict and that her family had different standards when it came to education than many of the families that lived around her. I think Michelle is a great example and an influence for those who experience the pressure of unacceptance in their racial and gender community. I think that she exhibited a lot of perseverance in balancing her ambitious career goals while also staying true to her culture and her roots and avoiding the peer pressure that really told her otherwise. I found a qualitative study done by Yvonne Mailer and Katya Williams, who collectively found data from counseling centers in predominantly Black communities and found results that supported the idea that many of the middle class African Americans who were interviewed, particularly women, felt great pressure within their own racial community. Many of the middle class women who were interviewed said that it was normal for them to try and hide or deny any privilege that they might have out of fear of exclusion from the different groups in their community, particularly those who were in the working class or a class below them. They said that some of the labels they might receive were that they were not Black enough or that they were not one of us. I found another qualitative study that looked into the correlation of women in leadership and the greater scrutiny they receive while in these leadership positions during times of failure. This particular study found that there was a significant disproportionate correlation between the ambition to lead and the female gender during times of failure, which supports the idea that women are at a statistically disadvantage when it comes to their initiative to become leaders. I think that overall, Michelle's memoir reinforces the study's findings and shows how great racial pressure existed for her and still exists out in communities out there, and how crucial it is to not let these cultural pressures hinder your ambitions to achieve goals that others just might not be supportive of, whether it be your neighbor, your colleagues, or anyone. Thank you.